Doctors in Appalachia kept finding families immune to a deadly disease, all linked to one woman, in the early 1900s. Doctors working in the Appalachian Mountains began noticing something that made no sense. Entire families were surviving diseases that killed almost everyone else around them. They weren't wealthier, they didn't have better medicine. But generation after generation, they survived. And eventually, every one of those families led back to a single woman. At the turn of the 20th century, Appalachia was one of the poorest regions in the United States. Medical care was limited. Roads were scarce. And outbreaks of infectious diseases like tuberculosis and pneumonia were devastating. That doctors expected high mortality rates. But in a handful of isolated mountain communities, something was different. When disease spread, some families simply didn't die. At first, physicians assumed it was luck. But after decades of medical records, a strange pattern emerged. The same last names kept appearing. Families who lived in different hollows miles apart somehow shared the same resistance. When geneticists finally studied blood samples in the mid-1900s, they discovered something astonishing. These families carried a rare genetic mutation that made their immune systems hyper-efficient at identifying certain pathogens. But the real shock came when researchers traced family trees. No matter which direction they followed, every line ended at the same person, a woman known in local records only as Elizabeth of the Ridge. She lived sometime in the late 1700s. No photograph, no diary, just birth records and an unusually large number of surviving descendants. Scientists later determined Elizabeth likely carried a rare mutation affecting a gene involved in immune signaling. Most people's immune systems react after infection takes hold. Hers reacted almost immediately. The mutation didn't make her invincible, but it dramatically increased survival odds, especially against respiratory diseases common in Appalachia's climate. And because the mutation was dominant, many of her children inherited it. But the discovery raised uncomfortable questions. Why hadn't these families been studied sooner? The answer was unsettling. Appalachia was long ignored by mainstream medical institutions. Poverty, isolation, stereotypes, the genetic miracle hiding in plain sight was dismissed as coincidence. Today, scientists believe similar undiscovered genetic advantages may exist across the U.S. hidden in rural towns and forgotten communities. Not because people are different, but because history shaped who survived. Elizabeth never knew her DNA would protect generations. She never knew doctors would one day search for her in medical textbooks. But her body remembered what history forgot, and it passed that memory on one child at a time.